So I want to talk a little bit about this, like my personal feelings. So this will be like personal section of the broadcast. As you can see here, the air quality today is not very good, which means stay inside. To me, most of the days. I mean, my typical days in town has been like this anyway. If I usually when I see a air index that's in the red, this is in the orange, which means kind of wear a mask basically. Where well, they usually say for sensitive people, wear a mask for sensitive people. It's unhealthy. Wear a mask, particularly to sensitive people, and so I tend to wear a mask just because why bother? Why bother with the sort of egoism or pride? Pride to get you in trouble, you know. I'm strong enough to withstand it, you know. And there's a lot of that, you know. That's like one of the big things. I can take anything. But typically on such days like this, when it's this high, you know, when it's in these levels or higher, I'll stay in anyway, you know. And you can check it. You can check my, if you want to verify stuff, you can check my WeChat or my steps, you know, or my Nike run index. You know, you'll see days that I drop down to like 30 steps, 40 steps, you know, where my usual level is like 10,000 steps or, you know, or higher. There'll be those days that are like, you know, 40 steps, which means I stayed in all day. And those are days I'll, you know, just kind of sit around, play guitar, watch TV, watch movies, make videos, work on my lessons, stuff like that. So you know, that happens here. That solitary lifestyle, confined to quarters, and something I'm not accustomed to, and certainly something certainly that sort of translates in different occupations. So yeah, the air quality is bad today. So I really don't plan to go out one way or the other. Personal also. So I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna stay here. Let's bring up the chart here. Right now, as it stands, I'm looking at this chart that I made for myself. Kind of saying, all right, success leave. Let's put that down for now. Made this little chart for myself in a way of sort of regarding my feelings, my thoughts about staying here in China at this point. And I have 4 areas that I'm looking at: success leave, success stay, failure leave, failure stay. And success leaves means, you know, I can leave and there's no problems. You know, there's no problems for me to leave. If I leave, there won't be sort of any sort of bumps in sort of my income. That's, you know, that's not going to happen. You know, if I leave here, there will definitely, my income drops off to 0, and I have to figure out how to deal with that. And you know, I got a lot riding on that also. Just like, you know, most people. Some people don't. You know, some people can leave here and not have any sort of bumps in their income, so it doesn't really affect them. That would kind of be success leave, you know. And I could come back also. Success leave would mean I can come back. I have a support group here. That I'm not, you know, that I can depend on, or I have a situation here that I'm comfortable in. That would be success leave. So I look at that and I say, you know, how do I weigh on that, in that sort of category? And I'll say, you know, I'm lacking in some areas. I'm definitely lacking certain areas, like income. If I leave, that's a big sort of hit on my income. Then there's success stay. Success stay means, you know, I stay here, and you know, it kind of extends that idea of you have a support group, you know, and you can stay here and you can leave. You can, you know, it's safe, and you are doing well here. You know, that's success stay. So I look at that and I say, well, what do I have there? And I would say, okay, yeah, I have a good job, and I still have the ability to leave, but that is you know, that is sort of dwindling. I don't really have a support network here. So far, the people I've worked with have been reliable. Certainly, I'm looking at my pay. If that becomes a problem, you know, if I don't if I stop getting paid here, then I definitely have, then we definitely leave, you know. As also, you know, situations where I can't eat anymore, you know, if it gets down to that, then that would be, you know, there's no success in me staying either. And there's failure leave, right? So failure leave is like, okay, you leave because you have to. You leave because you're not wanted here. You leave because you've made a mistake. You leave because you couldn't find success here, you know. And there's, you know, there's a little bit of there's a little bit in that I could say, well, yeah, you know, like failure leave would be, yeah, I mean, things got so bad here that I had to leave. You know, things got so bad here that I had to leave. Failure stay is that I can't leave. You know, failure stay is like things are bad here and you can't leave. You know, you have been confined here. You know, that's failure stay, and I have to, you know, I have to worry about that. There's still certain elements, but you know, you could say, well, you know, you don't have that income outside. You don't have that job that's you know, right now, because of your arrangements and your circumstances. Like I said, I have a contract that I hope to honor. That you have to sort of stay with that. There is a clause in the contract that allows me pretty much to void it in these kinds of circumstances. But you know, that's the failure stay, success stay sort of kind of bumping up against each other. You know, it would be a situation where like I have to worry about getting to that stage where I can't leave, you know. That would be failure stay, being confined here. So that's what I'm looking at right now, and I'm making my decision. Right now, like I said, there's no evacuation plan for American citizens in my neck of the woods. There are still flights available out, and so I still have a contract, and I still kind of aim to keep my commitments. I will be getting paid soon, and I'm hoping that, you know, they can maintain that. I'm hoping they can maintain my salary. If they can't, then there's a reason also for me to leave there. Otherwise, you know, the situation on the ground here, there's definitely a lot of people wearing masks here and there, and there's definitely a lot of people not wearing masks, you know. And of course, they're seeing the same kind of news that we see, that in terms of like how effective is it anyway. And like I said, a lot of people live with that feeling of, you know, life, you take your chances, you know. And a lot of people are removed from the battle, you know, and they always are recognizing what it means to be kind of removed from direct, you know, really fighting the struggles and things like that. And they take a lot of pride, a lot of sense of identity is being able to being able to say that you fought those fights, you know, and that goes across the board, you know. It's not like veterans of any fight don't take some sense of pride out of saying, yeah, I fought that fight, you know, and so I know a little bit about what it did to me, at least. So you see a lot of people who are choosing not to wear masks and stuff like that. I went down to the market the other day, the wet market. It's still open. I did see police officer down there. There's also a supermarket above over the wet market, so that's where I went up into. And but I get my vegetables from the wet market, and I did get some vegetables. Kind of sort of seeing where things stand there. Cautiously, you know, everything's cautious, you know. They took my temperature at the supermarket, so that was kind of something new. But they took my temperature and then they split, you know. When I came back out, the guy wasn't there any longer, so I was like, well, that was all for me or something. Anyway, so that was my day yesterday. I actually went for my walk the other day, but the air quality wasn't too high, so I decided to. But I wasn't really aware of it, so sometimes I make a mistake. and go out there. When I looked at the air quality in the morning, it was down in the yellow and the moderate, and when I went out there, when I finally got outside, it had moved up into the orange and the red. And unfortunately, I was out there and unaware that that it had raised, the level had raised that high. Going along with that, right now here in China, it's the cold season. Right? It's chilly here, and you have these concrete buildings, and it gets cold. You know, it's just that overwhelming sense of, or that sort of persistent feeling of cold, like you know, everything's concrete. So that chill is just kind of absorbed in your surroundings, and if you don't have those like Korean heated floors, it's, you know, comes up from your feet. You really need to get some good warm slippers. I'm dressed like this, you know. You can crank up all your heat all you want, but as I've said before, that most buildings aren't well insulated, so you just, you know, that's very costly, and I don't pay my heating bill here, and it's one of those things I kind of feel, I think along with the lines with most Chinese people, they kind of feel like that's one area they can save money, you know, and so they just kind of bundle up and you know, kind of go through, try to take the chill away. So I don't crank up my heat or turn it on at all for the most matter. Even though I'm not paying, I don't want to outlive my welcome, you know. So I just kind of sort of layer up in these kinds of situations. It is chilly though, and you get that cold sense that's always kind of permeating everything. What else do I have to say here? So I've been following along, maybe I'll say that for the professional. I think it's also the personal, so pretty much where I stand right now is you know, I'm still cautiously proceeding along. I still haven't sort of resigned to leave at this point. But I'm also quite aware that there are certain situations where I will leave, or I will have to leave. Okay, are we rolling? We're rolling. All right. I want to talk a little bit about my professional sort of my thoughts about my profession here as an ESL teacher. First of all, it's one of those opportunities. You know, it's a danger zone now, so whatever price it's one of those things that's going to hike up the prices for being a native teacher in this country. I'm wondering kind of who's sticking around for this. My feeling is a lot of people kind of bolted, you know, especially the sort of the people are kind of the dream weavers, you know, as I call them, the dream weavers. You know, a lot of the younger pretty faces that they like to stick on teaching English over here, I'm pretty sure a lot of them kind of bolted, seeing the circumstances, and so if you're sticking around and you're kind of serious about doing your job, you know, your asking price just kind of probably doubled. You're gonna be in a position, you're gonna have some leverage with that at this point. So in terms of being an EFL teacher in China at this stage, is, you know, you have an extra added value onto being here or accepting the position. Something I'm taking into account. Also, but that being said, you know, personally, I'm finding, you know, it should be, you know, it traditionally should be a job which allows you, you know, success outside of China. You know, as an English teacher, you should be able to go to different places and be able to, this job should translate. But I've kind of talked in my other videos how it's kind of strange that I kind of was targeted, and not whenever those kind of channels rose, people were kind of trying to sink those ships on me. So it's one of the things I have to sort of evaluate. in continuing here. Um, that being said, I am getting my lessons together for the classroom right now. I'm sort of prepping lessons on going to the doctors, at the doctors, that kind of language, kind of dialogues you need. I'll probably revise the help lesson I've done before previously, so that language is available to them, and I think it's useful. I think it's a good idea to do that as an English lesson. I really haven't received any curriculum at this point or anything pertaining to the next semester's work, but I am in the process of prepping my lessons, and I think I'm choosing a responsible topic and one that will offer them at least some sort of value or some sort of skill that might come in quite healthy, beneficial to them, a possible tool that could potentially give them their chances of survival or success a greater chance. So that is what I'm focused on in terms of the classroom come February 16th. Also, on the other hand, a professional, I want to talk a little bit about the videos that I've been making. I've done a lot of work here with this Expat News. I've been doing kind of daily videos for my channel. I have a lot of time to sort of delve into graphic design and things like that at this point, so I'll probably be getting more fancy in that area. But I also want to talk a little bit about sort of the YouTube field that I follow. So let me see if I can bring them up here. That one. Bring this one here. There we go. And we'll put that one. We'll cover that one up. Some of the channels that I've been watching during the coronavirus sort of outbreak, I've been watching this one here, China Uncensored, China Unscripted. I think they're informed. Certainly, they take a lot of criticism for being anti-China, but I find that some of their criticism is valid, certainly, and informed. It's well informed, and they talk to some interesting people, and I enjoy the channel. Sometimes they can be a little bit too what do you want to say? Too severe in their accusations, but I don't know. But I still think that they make valuable content. Another creator that I've been following here is Jayo. Matt here is he's a YouTuber that is on that's doing a bike trek around the world. What's it called? Tricycle. I'm sorry, Matt. I know there's a saying for it. It doesn't ring a bell right now. But he's going around the world on his bike. But he originally started out, I think, pretty much like a lot of us have started out in China in his journey as somebody who came here looking for opportunities. I believe he was kind of involved in an export business, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty honest. He seems like a very nice person, and I enjoy his work. His wife is from Ningbo, and he's recently been watching his video. He's evacuated with his wife and his child. Different circumstances, though, and it's hard for me because these are people that I feel akin to, certainly. But they're in different circumstances, and certainly if I was in his shoes, I would feel the need to say, yeah, I'm taking my child and my wife out of this situation. That's what's best. But I also, can't help to feel like, well, he's also in a very good position, and I'm noticing this in his videos. He flies business class out of there, and I don't necessarily know if he started that way. his wife apparently is his family. His wife's family has a company here. He's spoken a little bit about, and they seem pretty well off, you know, in terms of how they're able to deal with this situation. And I'm not trying to begrudge him anything for doing the right thing for him and his family, but it's just something I'm observing. You know, I'm not in the same shoes. I'm in the shoe. You know, I don't know if he still does his export business. Certainly, if you're gonna pull up shop and make videos about biking around the world, you got to be pretty well set off to do that. And plus of that, he has the video channel running, so he has kind of that success leave aspect all wrapped up. You know, he has the ability to say, I can leave here, I still got a job to sustain us, and you know, and there's not really a big, you know, interruption in my lifestyle. It's just kind of, I have to just kind of go back to this outpost or that outpost, move from place to place, stage to stage, basically. So he's kind of fortunate, and you know, hey, lucky him. You know, he's a good guy. And I like his videos, and I'm glad they're safe, and I hope things work out. I hope, you know, they're, you know, they stay healthy and so on, so forth. Difficult to leave though because of the stigma, you know, and that's something I've also had to consider in making my decision. Okay, you're going to be leaving China, and you're guaranteed to have that stigma. And if you have to go out and look for another job in the United States, they're going to be like, that's going to be something they're going to like, everybody's going to kind of have a little bit of a caution, you know, about you now because you were in China during this virus. And it was something I wasn't really aware of until, like, I had been in Northern Ireland back in 1989, and this was the time during the mad cow disease. And I was really surprised when I went to give blood that I went to give blood like in 2015 or 13, 14, somewhere in there. I remember I went to give blood and or donate blood. And I was told I couldn't do it because I was in Ireland during that time, and the mad cow disease was in Britain, and they had made a ban on anybody who had been in you know, in the UK during that time, was no longer able to, a lifetime ban, you know, so I can't get blood. And certainly that stigma is going to be with anybody who is in China, you know, if they want to make it. Another channel I'm looking at is this one here, Peak Prosperity. He's doing a daily report on the coronavirus, very kind of clinical look at it, very informative. He's taken, you know, there's certain points of view that probably I'm not going to agree with all of his statistics. Certain biases that are apparent come to the forefront, but for most part, I think he's giving a pretty informed look at you know, the clinical side of it, in terms of research, in terms of statistics, in terms of looking at it. It's certainly going to be alarming, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to panic. You know, it's stuff that you're going to have to kind of take into consideration. It's stuff you need to know. You know, I appreciate this channel by Peak Prosperity. This channel here I was looking at here, this fellow here, Ben Cavanaugh. He's obviously sponsored by Channel 4 News. He was in Wuhan, a teacher there. I would say your typical, you know, an ESL teacher. And it was interesting to hear his story. He didn't seem to, he got out with the evacuation there for the United Kingdom citizens. And it's interesting to see how his story is turning out. And another channel I watch here is ADV China. It's Serpent ZA and Matt. I don't know his last name, but another fellow New Yorker, upstate New Yorker, which is very kind of funny because he, Laoway86 here, because this is funny, that's him there, right? Look at this, Matt. I bought a protective mask here, and I'm thinking, man, I look just like Laoway86. I like it's my protective mask. This is not the one that you should be using as a protective mask, but I bought this mask because I was trying to create a character for a video idea I had, and I bought this mask and I put it on. And I was like, wow, I look just like him. I look just like that. He said. But it's not a protective mask. Don't be using it in times of disease. So anyway, these guys I watch. You know, I have some problems with Serpent ZA in terms of his story, but he's a very smart guy, and I like his content. He's insightful. There's a lot of things I agree with in terms of his perspective on China, but there's certain things that I feel he's embellishing. You know, there's certain things, one choice he's made in his life in terms of how that affects the American immigration situation is one that I'm really sort of uncomfortable with, and I can't endorse or condone. But overall, you know, I can understand him being from South Africa and trying to find an opportunity that you know, that he wouldn't have there, he wouldn't have anywhere really. But it's a good channel. I think they are, you know, they have spent a long time in China and really are we have a parallel in terms of how long we've been here and when we started here. I've been here since 2009, and I think they were here 2008 or something like that. And so we've kind of seen a lot of the same things, a lot of different developments together. So I do feel akin to their point of view and their perspective in a lot of ways. They left though, and they're fortunately able to be in the United States and sustained by this video work. So they're speaking from that vantage point where, you know, they can focus all entirely on their videos and from the safety and the security of the United States. And I'm always wrestling with things they wrestled with too, you know, in terms of making videos and getting them out of here, and perceptions and finding your ability to sustain yourself in China, so on and so forth. And that's pretty much it, you know. You know, my hopes, my objectives is that this would be a great retirement plan for me. Is to have this you know, this video channel to be able to sustain me eventually. I enjoy making the videos, and I'm certainly, if I can find people who want to work together, that'd be a great thing, because it's definitely a time-consuming thing, and there's things I don't know about it. This is the year that I have to go through and try and sort of upgrade my equipment, just because of the toll it's taken, and so it's going to be a difficult year to in terms of finances. So I was kind of hoping that you know, this job panned through in terms of being able to achieve a lot of those goals. So we'll see what happens. Anything else that I want to say with the professional? I think that's good. I think we'll move on to the next section here. Okay, in this section I want to kind of just talk a little bit about maybe my thoughts about the politics of the situation. I think the Chinese government, the national government, is actually doing a pretty effective job and doing you know, making a tremendous effort to sort of contain the outbreak. You know, they've stepped up their game, and I think they're doing a good job. There's advisories in this community constantly being done. There's banners. They're taking measures. They are. There was, you know, some, like I said, there's some police in the wet mark. So they are, you know, they're taking this serious, and they're doing their best to slow its progress until a vaccine can work out. It does look like that is the three sort of how the situation is unfolding. Is what you have is, you have a vaccine that will be able to sort of, you know, you'll eventually have a vaccine or a medication, hopefully, that will be able to take care of the virus. Until that time, you need to contain its spread, and then you have nature playing itself out. You know, you have those three sort of elements to this, I think, and I think they're doing their best they can, and they're doing a pretty good job of, under tremendous circumstances. I mean, you have to look at China's in terms of population and people being mobile and chances of it transmitting through various means and measures is immense. You know, it's just unfathomable. Hopefully, like I said, it will you know, in the future, rather they'll take a stronger focus on their health and sanitary infrastructure as a measure they need to sort of address. Hopefully, it will lead to that. I don't think it's the right thing to do to refuse the assistance of the CDC. I think that's going to be a big mistake for them politically, because you have such an advanced, one of the most advanced, most recognized bodies of physicians and doctors and researchers that is focused on these sorts of situations, biological outbreaks, and to refuse their assistance is negligence. You know, is a negligence that could cost a lot of their own people their lives, and it could jeopardize the lives of people outside of China. You know, and to take that, set that as a precedent, it's kind of a grudge as a precedent, is really going to cost them in the international, you know, arena of perceptions. You know, it's one of those things like, hey, you have this chance to save people and you're refusing it. You know, I understand that why they're sort of trying to use the WHO as sort of a platform for international aid. Perhaps because, you know, the WHO is more lenient, and I'm not going to say it's not a good thing to have. At least they are doing that, but it's not enough, I think, when you do have such an event, when you have another body of researchers willing to help and wanting to help and having the ability to do so, and you're refusing it in this sort of situation. I think it's a really bad sort of political, it really speaks of ill will. I also don't think it's the right thing to criticize the American government for its travel restrictions. I think they are quite rational. That being said, I'm a bit curious. I'm thinking like, well, American citizens coming from, you know, from China into America are, you know, the only verification you can get is that to know if they've been to Wuhan or if they've been to Hubei province or been in contact with people is going to be their word on it, because you don't really have the evidence unless you're, you know, going into train records and contact records. You have access to all that. You don't really have the immediate sort of access to that kind of evidentiary information, you know, at an airport level, airport screening level. So I'm kind of skeptical of their ability to sort of control that flow, the flow of information there. I still think they have an effective measure for sort of dealing with people coming back from China or who have been to China. They will have the ability to isolate it into certain communities and sort of keep their eye on it. But they won't really have the ability to sort of verify, you know, who's been to Wuhan, who's been to Hubei. And my feeling is, knowing people, is that you're going to get some people who are quite forward and honest with it, you know, and be looking, and then you're going to have a lot of people who are really scared and are not going to be, you know. Maybe oh my gosh, I saw that person, they're from Wuhan, aren't they? Oh my gosh, you know, well, maybe I just don't have to mention that kind of deal. And you're going to get a lot of that also. Or, I wasn't, you know, you're going to get a lot of that also. So those are concerns. And that would, you know, that, and being able to verify that would, then you would have to have access to, like, sort of, you know, their whatever feasible records you could sort of compile on that one person's sort of activities in China. And they do exist, but you would have to have some interagency work going on there, and I'm not sure if that exists. So that's politically, I think China is doing a really good job in trying to sort of keep it contained at this point. In terms of their initial response, I think it was definitely unsatisfactory, and that inclination to try and cover it up, then rather sort of address it immediately, address it as a serious concern immediately, is a major mistake. They really should have. They definitely shouldn't be arresting people under the sense that this doctor was making a rumor. He certainly was a professional, and they shouldn't have treated him like he was just kind of some con artist trying to, exploit an opportunity for himself. They really should have been. Oh, this is professional, and we need to really take a serious look at this because we know what's going to happen in a couple of days. We know Spring Festival is right around the corner, and we know what that means. So that was a real, and I think the national government took the correct disciplinary measures in saying, yeah, this is your fault, because this, why in God's earth are you treating this person like he was a criminal? That being said, I'm not sure if this kind of outbreak would have been treated any differently in a place like, let's say, New York City or Los Angeles. Let's say this, you have certain people, I guess, that might feel threatened by certain these kinds of things, and would hinder the ability of others to address them. And in that sense, we're kind of in the same boat. We're in the same boat in a lot of ways, because I'm not sure. Like 9/11, there's a lot of evidence that was sort of building up, and nobody did anything. So. And that, of course, that's not to suggest this is any sort of anything to do with terrorism. I'm just saying when certain sort of events, when certain sort of events occur, there's usually sort of indications that it will occur, and there's certain information that gives evidence that it will occur, and sometimes that information is not addressed correctly. That's all I have to say. Finally, on the political sense, you see heartbreaking stories, and I just wanted to talk about one story that is particularly, personally very upsetting to me. And it's the story of this poor boy who was handicapped with cerebral palsy, who was left for 6 days without any sort of assistance from anyone, and it's quite obvious that the authorities were really the only ones in the position to do anything about it, and because I wouldn't have expected anyone else to do anything about it. You have to understand that most people, his father and his brother, were diagnosed with the symptoms, and we were quarantined, and that left this young boy without any caretakers, and he doesn't have the ability to take care of himself, and so he died because of that negligence. And that would be a point where the authorities really needed to step in and sort of bring this boy into their custody and to look after him. It's heartbreaking because I had a particular incident in Wuhan back in 2010, I think, where I just kind of felt a lot of my disregard had grown to a point where I needed to address it. And there was a disabled girl on the street that I sort of went to a great extent to show some basic dignity, to give her some sort of assistance that sort of my hardened sort of prejudice, or my hardened sort of sense of crassness, I guess, had gotten the better of me, and I felt that I needed to put a little faith in it, because it was one of those situations where I had grown so accustomed to hearing about all these the scamming of young people and purposely handicapping them, and beggars were just a kind of a just syndicates of exploitation. And I had grown really sort of hardened towards that, and really sort of what do you want to say, repugnant. Yeah, I guess I didn't really, I kind of scorned it. And but there was a young girl who I felt deserved better, regardless, in terms of, like, and I just mean, like, in terms of giving people money. You get to that point where you're like, oh, I'm not gonna donate to this person because it's all just corrupt. It's all just a criminal syndication that's kind of exploiting these poor kids. But I kind of felt like, yeah, but if that's all they got, what else are you going to do? I mean, you're not going to take out the whole criminal syndicate. So you have the choice of giving to this person, this human being, and helping them at least for that day, or helping them at least, at least take some of that burden away from them, that they might get punished, or it might make their situation worse if I didn't give it to them, And so I kind of said, I need to give something to this girl, and so I spent days looking for her, and it was just one of those situations where you feel like you gotta kind of you gotta sort of, you have to sort of, like, weigh your heart on the brighter side of things, on the more hopeful side of things. And this is kind of a failure, This is one of those situations where this poor kid, there was no, once the neighborhood knew that his father, it was quarantine, they probably weren't going to go around to take care of him. Not even his family might, like aunties and uncles probably would also be reluctant to do so. And I would feel like this would be a situation where the authorities need to help this young man until his father and his brother would hopefully be able to do so. Very sad, very, very tragic story. So those are my thoughts on February 3rd, 2020, here in Jinjiang, Fujian, China. I'm Sean Sardo.